Hi, and welcome to my video here. This video is going to be a floating wall-hung cabinet. It's going to be low like a buffet. It's going to have a wooden top on it. Right now, we are starting to cut up our panels. This is how I start cutting my sheets apart. First, I'll clean an edge up. Once I get that edge cleaned up, then I'll run it along the fence and cut it to final dimension. I use a sliding table saw for this. It makes it a lot easier. It supports the panel and it just goes a lot quicker that way. So once I get the panels ripped, I generally will cross cut them. And now I've got these stops on my fence, and they have the dimensions and a tape measure built right into them. So what I'll do is I'll set it to where I need it. I believe this one was 68.5, and it looks like I'm going to cut the top rails here first. And first thing I'll do is I'll square them up on the one end, cut it clean, as you'll see in a second here. I lift up the stop just to get it underneath there, and there we go. I'm going to turn it around, put the cut end against the stop, and unfortunately this piece of plywood was pretty warped. It was kind of a difficult thing to cut, but made it work. Generally you can do that. Obviously if the pieces were shorter it wouldn't have made a difference, but longer pieces, sometimes warped material can be more of a challenge to work with. I don't know if you can hear that high-pitched whine before it hits the saw blade right there. So what that is that's my scoring blade. It actually, this saw, and I'll have to show in another video, has a little blade that spins backwards, and what it does is it scores the bottom of the material to keep the tear out. It cuts out the tear out, basically. It's the way it goes. So my panels are cut clean underneath. It's not necessary when you're ripping and using a rip cut, but when you cross cut sometimes you can get a little tear out on the plywood, and the scoring blade takes that out. Should be able to hear it in a second. You actually couldn't hear it because this panel was warped and it wasn't sitting on the scoring blade like it should have. Alright, so those were the big pieces. Now I'm setting up to cut up the smaller pieces, the sides and whatnot. Turn the saw on, turn the scoring blade on. This saw has the scoring blades on a separate motor, so you can operate it with or without the scoring blade. And what I'm doing here is I'll rough cut the panel to rough size first off the long one, and then I'll finish cut them to closer size. Obviously the smaller your pieces you're working with makes it a lot easier to manipulate and get square cuts and whatnot. So now that I've cut the two short pieces, I'm now going to square up the one end. I'll take it out and flip it around and cut it on the stop. Set to the stop, and here we go. We're just cutting it to its final dimension. It's as simple as that. Alright, since we haven't used this machine before, I just want to give you a quick overview here. This is an edge bander. This is not an automatic edge bander. This is a two-part edge bander where this side here will put the tape on. It does use hot melt glue. So this is the tape. It comes in a roll. This is the end of a roll. And I will put the piece through. It applies the glue. It sticks the tape on it, pushes it in, and then it's done. It did used to have a cutter. The cutter actually went bad. I couldn't get a new air cylinder for it, so now I got to do it by hand. So let me quickly show you here a couple panels. Here, push this in a little bit. It's out a little too far. Here we go. Very simple. Puts the glue on, slides it down, gets it to there. We'll clip it off. There you go. The tape is put on. And it looks like it's sticking it to the thing, and because this is hot melt glue, after it cools off in a few seconds, it's good to go. And then we will move on to the next stage, which is trimming it in a second. Okay, so this is a trimming station. So when we use this part, first thing we're going to do is we're going to end cut. So it's got an air cylinder and a guillotine, and you just push it in. It's got a button to press. You can see it. It just presses there, and it cuts off the back piece flush. Once you get it flush, now we're just going to run over it. This is basically just a kind of a router setup. It's an air router, but it's a router set up with a flush trim bit horizontally, and it just trims off the edge for me. It's pretty simple, pretty quick. I can do an edge pretty fast. Now, obviously, an automatic edge bender would be a lot faster, but for what I have right now and the space I have, this works pretty good for me. And here we go again. We're just gonna, as you can see, how quickly I can trim an edge. I mean, with this setup, I generally can spend on smaller panels. I probably got 30 to 45 seconds between putting the tape on and trimming it. It's a lot faster than using an iron, that's for sure. So this is a machine we haven't used yet in the shop. This is my line boring machine, and it drills 13 holes. They're all 5mm holes. Does it all one shot. And I use this for my shelf pins and also for my my hinge settings. It's set perfectly where I need it for the hinge plate distance. I've got to line up, these stops are perfectly set, so I have a whole system where I can just easily put the plates in, and everything's on a 32mm system. Let me show you how it works. So we take our panel here, put it in the machine just like this, along the fence, hit the stop, turn it on. 13 holes done. Turn it around. Holes are done. Simple as that quickly. It adds the holes for the shelf pins, and then you also can mount I can mount my hinge plates for the hinges here. Makes things a lot faster for me. So now we got to lay out the two center panels, because this is a 3-door cabinet. Actually, probably should be 4 doors, but it's going to be 3. So I've done the math already. It's about 23.3 on center. That's about 2 5/16 or so. We'll just do that off of there. 23 5/16, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to do 5/16 here, and that should be our center lines. Now we'll check from here. See what we're at there, and we're right on. 23 5/16 is perfect. So now what we're going to do is we will strike this out here, 3/8, then 1 2 3/8. We'll put our line in here. Their basic layout. This should fit nicely. Very good. And then I'm going to do this one here, same way, 3/8. And our next step will be to lamelo this. Alright, so it's time to lamelo, and apparently I did not turn on my microphone, so we will do this with voiceover. Basically, I'm lining up the panel that goes up to the lines and the marks that I made previously. And what I'm going to do, I'm probably explaining this, is to line up the lines and get the inside edge lined up. And I take a spring clamp by doing that. As you'll see here, these are just ordinary spring clamps. Clamp one there. Get it lined up. Now, everything is square. As long as I line up the front edge, the panel will get installed square into the cabinet. Obviously, if it's cut at an angle, it will be cut at an angle. But these are square, so we're good. My saw cuts everything square for me. So anyway, I've got a line in the middle there. The two ends cuts, the two end biscuits will be lined up with the outside edges. I do that for speed, so I don't have to make a million marks. I generally just put a mark in the middle, and here we go. Let's see if we'll do the first one first. I believe so. Sometimes I cut the first one first. I'm not going to cut the first one first. So I line it up with the edge. That one just lines the edge of the machine up. Now there's a mark in the middle of the lamelo joiner that I line up with my pencil line. It's just as simple as that. Now, here's something that's very important when you're doing this. Always cut your up cut first, because as you see, I'm pushing into this panel, and what it's doing is it's going to push that panel off the line. When you cut the down into the panel first, like I did, it won't move it. Now we're going to do another one here. Same deal. Line it up. Very simple. I mean, and you can see in real time how quickly I can cut center dividers into a cabinet by just doing this. Once the lines are out, it's pretty quick. It doesn't take me very long. We're going to do the same thing. This is the first cut always. The up cut, pushing it down is always first, so you don't push that panel out of alignment. Just like that. Line up with the back fence. Cut my 3 there. And there we go. We got 1, 2, and 3. And that's as simple as that. It's how you can install center dividers into a cabinet with biscuits. Okay, right now I am testing and double checking. I mean, I don't normally do this, so I'm just doing this for a video. So as you can see, they slip right in, everything lines up, you get a nice tight joint, and your center dividers are ready to go and ready for the next step. So now the next step here is we've added the auxiliary fence to the biscuit joiner. The reason I do that is so I can lay these flat. It makes it a lot easier to cut the joints. What we're going to do is we'll lay it flat, and I don't know if you can see, I've got pencil line here. I have pencil line here, that's the back. So the back, this will get cut out later. I could have done it first, it probably would have been easier, but actually we need this. This hose sometimes falls off. So I'm going to show you. Okay. So actually we're going to cut these now. You can see this here. We're going to flush up with this edge of it here, center, and then flush over here. And on this side here, we're going to put short rails, so we just got 2 biscuits to put in. So we'll cut these right now. So now we flip this over. We flip this over, and then we're going to just put the biscuits in the long section here. Very simple, very quick. So here's our pile of pieces all cut up. I've got the top rails, I got the center section. I've got the end panels. Our next step is going to be to finish. I'm going to pre-finish the insides of this before it goes together. Make it a lot easier. It's hard to get in sometimes in the corners and stuff with the gun. I could spray this together, but I think I'm going to pre-finish this. So that'll be next step. And all right, we are now putting primer on these. Actually, I probably have a coat on them. They're white already. They were wood. I must have forgot to make a video. Anyhow, very simple technique. When you're spraying, you definitely want to keep it as flat and as even as possible. You want the speed. You can see I'm keeping a very consistent speed, very consistent distance with the gun. And once you get this figured out, you will not get drips. Now, obviously, drips are not good. So it's pretty simple. Here we go. Do the long panel. Now we'll do the short panel. We'll do the edge first. Hit the edge. I can't see the edge. And that one you might be able to see it. Here we are. Hit our edges. And now we'll do the flat. Same thing. It's consistent speed, consistent distance. Takes a lot of practice. I've been doing this very many years, so I can do a really good finish. Once you get the technique figured out, it's not hard at all. It's the easiest way to put on a finish, and it gives you a great finish. This is actually a pre-catalyzed lacquer I'm using today. I use water-based as well, but this one is not water-based today. Once the primer has dried, which honestly with this stuff takes about 10-15 minutes, it's pretty quick. We got to sand it real quick. This is 320 grit sandpaper. We start by hitting the edges real quick, and then this is a 3x4 air sander. It's got 320 grit sandpaper on it, and it's pretty simple, pretty quick. Doesn't take long at all. You're just knocking down the edges. And actually, because this is pre-finished plywood, this actually is already smooth to start with, so it actually sands even easier than unfinished material. As simple as that. Do the other side, same deal. We're going to hit the edges real quick, knock the corners down. Very simple. Hit it with a jitterbug sander. Go. This is all it takes to quickly sand your primer, and now you're ready for top coat. Okay, time for our top coat. This is a finished coat. Generally, I'll put two coats on. I'll probably only show you me spraying one, but same as before. It's just a different paint in the gun. This will be a pre-catalyzed top coat instead of the primer. Same thing, very simple. I hit the edges first, like I did before. Now we're going to come back, and guess this time I decided to start at the bottom and not the top. Long, even strokes, consistent speed. You're doing here, you're going to make it nice and wet, but not too wet, because too wet will get you drips. And again, it's all about feel. And then as you learn how to use your spray gun better, you'll get the feel. Sometimes it'll put more paint on, and sometimes it'll put less paint on. And you got to have the feel of that so you can keep your coat to be very consistent. Because if it's putting more paint on, you're going to want to move faster. And if it's putting less paint on, you'll move a little slower. And that's just a result of sometimes the gun gets clogged and whatnot. But it's an experience thing. You can feel it as you're doing it, how the paint is. You can also hear, like I can hear it right now, it's whistling a little bit, so the tip is probably needed to be cleaned. It'll still put on a good coat, but it's not coming out as clean as it should. Sometimes in between coats and while you're doing it, you're going to want to like clean off the tip, because the paint will build up a little bit on the edge of it. Oftentimes, while I'm sanding, I'll take the cap off the gun, and I'll put it in thinner just to clean it off, while I'm waiting for it. Inside the gun generally is fine, and lacquer won't harden up in the gun. like other paints could. It's not a two-part catalyzed finish, not this one at least. So it's glue up time now. So when we're gluing a cabinet together, I've already pre-finished all this stuff. It's a pretty simple process. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put our biscuits in. And these cabinets all go together about the same. You know, first step is glue, obviously. And I use this mini call glue bottle. What I generally like to do is I like to add all my glue into the pieces before I add biscuits. It just seems easier. So I'm going to do all the flats where the biscuits go in, and the reason you want to do that is you got to be careful you don't. I like to put biscuits in my flat panels. I don't like to put the biscuits in the end panels, and because if you put biscuits in both panels, that won't work. And you try to avoid doing that by, you know, putting the biscuits in both sides. So if you just keep yourself where I'm only putting them in the flat panel and not where it intersects in the end panel, it'll keep you from, you know, double gluing, or double biscuiting, I'm sorry, and putting in biscuits where you don't want them, because obviously biscuits fill a slot, and if you fill both sides of the slot with a biscuit, it's not going to work. Now we got that done and that done, so now I'll move this out way here. And you don't have a ton of time to do this, but you know, as long as you move along and work along as you go. I've learned over the years that glue-ups are generally, as long as you just keep moving along and doing what you got to do, you're okay. It's not a huge deal. I'm not going to lie to you. When I was starting in college, glue-ups were like the scariest thing in the world. You'd worked so hard and so long to cut your pieces and your joints and everything, and then it's like, you know, if the glue-up goes bad, let's see this here. I'm adding the glue on top of this here. Anyway, if your glue-up goes bad, then you got issues of you got to start over and redo the whole thing. So it was nerve-wracking, and when you're inexperienced, it's it's a difficult situation and time for you. I mean, now I've been doing this for 30 years now. It's just second nature to put things together. So you can see how simple that went together. That's why I love the biscuits. This will pop right together. I'm going to turn this on its side for now. I don't know if you can see. I guess you can see. So now what we're going to do, we're going to add the glue to this side here. And you can see this bottle works really nice installing the glue. It gets in on both sides of the biscuit slot and makes things go a lot easier. So, I've lifted this up. Now the tricky part here is going to be, this has a 3/4 inch back in it. So what I need to do is I'm going to prop it up with a block, a couple blocks here. I'm going to lay a block right here across here because that'll hold it up, and I'm going to put one in the other one too. And now we're going to get out our side panels. Now everything is glued here. So now we can just pop that in. So it doesn't line up quite perfectly yet. That's okay. So we just tap it. So we know this has got to come up. So we're going to lift this up, hit it, perfect. Grab this spring clamp, maybe I got one over here. Anyhow, right there. We're going to take our big old 10-foot clamps right here. Get the block on there. Just clamp her up. I'll clamp on there. Very good. All right, I guess we can make this work. Something's going on with it. We can make it work. There we go. Joint's nice and tight now. A little low over here. We're going to lift it up. Okay. There we go. Got that on there now. We can remove these guys here. So with the magic of YouTube, I actually made a mistake and forgot to make a video here. So this is the completed back. Because this is a floating cabinet, it is glued with a melamine glue, which will stick to painted surfaces. I also put a bunch of screws in it because the weight coming off the cabinet could end up like, we don't want it to come apart and come off the wall in the back to pull out. Alright, so we're back in the booth here to spray the end panels. First we got to blow them off. And these are raw. This will get primed first. I didn't show the priming process earlier, but now you can see I'm going to prime them first. There we go here. Same thing. I put the back in first before I do the end panels when I do it this way, just to keep the overspray from getting into the cabinet and making a mess of it. And the reason why I'm spraying these afterwards is because sometimes when you clamp up finished panels, you'll get damage in them, and then you got to go back and fix it anyways. So I've always found it's easier just to sometimes just spray it first. Now we're just going to give this a quick scuff here, and now we're going to spray some top coat on it. It doesn't take much to scuff it off. It just take in the hair out, blow it off, just like that. And we'll just shoot a coat of top coat on it right now. And we will be good to go. This will actually get probably 2 to 3 top coats, but I don't think I made a video of all of them. It's all the same process. These are hinges for frameless. These here actually are soft close, and they work with a Logica system, they call it, and these will actually lock into the door without screws. When we do the door video, I'm actually breaking this up into different videos. So when I do show you the doors, you'll see how that actually works. It's a pretty cool system. Makes it a lot easier. But anyhow, I will give you a quick rundown on how I do it. So now I always use the bottom 2 holes here for the first hinge plate. The reason I do this is because when I drill the holes, when I drill the holes in the door, I always know this. For my stop on the hinge boring machine is set at 4 inches, which is always that one. That's always that one. And then the second one, which will be up here, I'll drop it down 1 hole from here on this one, and then what I'll end up doing is I'll end up measuring here to here, and that'll be my second hole. So this makes it go faster because I always have this stop is always set for the first hinge, and then I just have to draw a line for the second one. Now, on my standard base cabinets, I have a stop set for that. On my standard uppers, I have a stop set for that. But this is not a standard cabinet. This is a different size. So as I talked through a whole thing, let me go back through and show you how I put this hinge in. I didn't explain it very well. So we'll go over to this one here. What I'm going to do, these have these big fat screws in them. They're Euro screws, they call them, so they fit in these hinge holes. What I'm going to do, so I'm going to put it in here. If you can see it. All right. So we're going to put it in these 2 bottom holes here, obviously. What I do is I start the first one, just get it started, and then I'll put the second one. And the reason you don't want to put them in completely at once is if it grabs, it'll spin and it'll scratch the side of the cabinet. Now the upper one here, we're going to start, same thing. We're leaving one hole open. Start it right here, get it halfway in or whatever, tighten it down, good to go. All you got to do to mount the hinge plates. And the reason I use this system is because now I know where everything is. So now I can quickly align all these here. I don't have to sit there with jigs and stuff. My hinge boring machine is set back the proper step back here, and everything is 32 millimeter system, so I will do that. So now here's how the hinge works. So now the hinge will just clip on just like this, and there it goes, and then it'll work. Obviously the door's not on, but that's how these hinges work. Very simple and very quick. So these are the completed door hinges, and this will have 3 doors on it, and they're all going to hinge the same direction. These doors are going to have glass doors, which will be in another video. And they're all going to open the same direction, and they won't have any handles, I don't believe. That's what the customer specified on this one. Thank you for watching the video. This is going to be part 1 of 2, I believe. We're going to do the top and the doors in the next video, and I will show you the staining and my staining and finishing process for natural wood. I did show you in this one my painting process for plywood and stuff. I do it all in one video, but I think it's going to be too long. I don't want to make the video too long where people don't watch it till the end. So I appreciate if you've gotten this far in the video. And if you could like, subscribe, and share this video, that would be wonderful. I'm really trying to get this going, and I'm having some positive comments and results, and hopefully this is going to be great. Have a great day.